Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving right into a fascinating journey, one that totally blurs the boundaries between rural folklore, deep psychoanalysis, and, believe it or not, modern pop culture. We're going to unpack a phenomenon that spans generations. It's essentially a story of grief, the terrifying unknown, and how we as humans use myth to process unimaginable loss. Now, you might be wondering, what could possibly connect a terrifying, shape-shifting ghost to a slick, romantic Bollywood hero? What's absolutely wild here is that the answer lies in a single, deeply misunderstood concept shared across India and Pakistan. I mean, at first glance, a supernatural horror story and a modern musical seem completely worlds apart, right? But if you trace their cultural DNA back far enough, they lead to the exact same origin point.
Okay, so let's break this down. The root word literally means to leap, to move rapidly, or to trick, and that perfectly sets the stage for our main subject today, the chhalawa. This concept is deeply, deeply embedded in the folklore of the subcontinent. You know when people talk about something that was just right here a second ago and suddenly it's way over there? They call that a chhalawa. It's basically a paranormal trickster.
Let's jump into Section 1, the shape-shifting trickster spirit.
So what does this thing actually look like? Well, a chhalawa is less about physical harm and much more about unpredictable, unsettling terror. Picture this. They lurk on lonely highways at night, or maybe they knock on second-story windows where literally no human could possibly stand. It's hazy, smoky, often seen wearing a white cloth. And if it actually takes human form, oh, you'll know. You'll know it by its shifty, moving eyeballs that absolutely refuse to lock gazes with yours.
Listen to this chilling piece of local folklore. A woman traveling by horse carriage at night took pity on this crying little white goat and actually pulled it into her lap. But as the carriage sped up, she noticed a smoky trail. The goat's legs had stayed behind on the dirt road. When she threw the legless demon out in absolute terror, it chased them down the road, screaming, "I won't leave you, I won't leave you." Moving right along to Section 2, Tales of the Chhalawa. These aren't just vague ancient myths either. Back in the 1980s in Karachi, there was this famous account of a motorcyclist who gave a midnight ride to a stranded young boy. Pretty normal, right? But as he drove, the bike inexplicably started slowing down. He looked back, and the boy's legs had stretched like rubber. They were still anchored to the exact spot miles away where he picked him up. Needless to say, the driver abandoned his bike and just ran for his life. But hey, we humans aren't completely defenseless here. There's this amazing story of a grandmother who dealt with a mischievous, childlike chhalawa that lived in her courtyard tree. It used to call her ama and throw stones at people. Well, one day, she tricked it into sitting on a boiling hot brick that she hid right next to a plate of sweet, fragrant kheer. The spirit burned itself and ran away, crying and cursing. It's a real boss move, honestly. It shows that even supernatural tricksters can be outsmarted by a fearless matriarch. Actually, scratch the whole evil monster idea for a second, because not all of these entities are born of malice. In the village of Lakamandal, a watchman lost his young son to a terrible landslide. Half mad with grief, he prayed desperately that his son's soul would remain on Earth. Shortly after, locals started noticing a playful new chhalawa in the area. For the grieving father, it actually brought him comfort. He truly believed his son's spirit had just taken a new form. And that brings us to Section 3, the tragic tale of Chala. So, the crucial point here is that this entity is often born of tragedy, the very real heartbreak of a drowned son soon transformed into a massive cultural artifact. Here's the story. A river sailor named Shala fell ill and lost his teenage son, Chala, to a vicious river current when the boy went out to get medicine. Driven mad by the grief, the father wandered the streets endlessly, singing verses of longing. This agonizing search became the foundation for one of the most famous folk songs in the region, symbolizing the absolute irreversibility of loss. Let's look at Section 4, a psychoanalytic wandering soul.
This is where it gets super interesting, because this isn't just a sad song, it's actually a profound metaphor for human psychology. Academics like Mandeep Kaur have brilliantly analyzed the Chala folklore through the lens of psychoanalysis. This really helps us understand exactly why this specific story has survived and mutated for nearly a century.
Okay, think of it like a giant psychological puzzle. We all live in what psychologists call the symbolic order. That's the safe, predictable realm of language, family rules, societal norms, our home. But outside that safe bubble is the real,
a terrifying, chaotic, unrepresentable void. When young Chala drowns, that river literally represents the real. It swallows him up, completely shattering the safe order of the father's life, dropping him into this unspeakable chaos where nothing makes sense anymore. Fast forward to today, and the psychoanalytic framework maps perfectly onto the modern migrant experience. For young men leaving their rural homes for sprawling cities or foreign lands to find work, Chala becomes a metaphor for economic displacement. They are abruptly thrown out of their safe symbolic order and right into the foreign, chaotic real. In this new space, capitalist fantasies completely fail to fill the void of the family they left behind, leaving them deeply alienated. They essentially become the wanderer, forever searching. That leads us perfectly into Section 5, Modern Mutants and Bollywood. The folk mutant of Chala simply refuses to stay in the past. The idea spread like wildfire. Over the decades, it morphed from a rural ballad on a 1934 vinyl record to the booming voices of 1970s Pakistani folk legends, right up to 2010's Bollywood cinema and modern Punjabi hip-hop. It adapts to literally whatever era it finds itself in, carrying the heavy weight of the diaspora across time and space. And then, of course, Bollywood gets its hands on the myth. Interestingly, they split the Wanderer in two totally different directions. On one hand, you have Shah Rukh Khan in Jab Dukai Jaan. He plays this soft, sentimental seeker, wandering London, looking for lost love and a sense of home. But on the other hand, you have Emran Hashmi in Crook, an aggressive, hedonistic taxi driver just chasing capitalist excess in a foreign land. Both characters are deeply alienated, but they cope with the chaos of the real in entirely opposite ways. There's this one haunting lyric from the modern adaptations that perfectly captures the existential crisis of globalization. It asks, "Wanderer, what are you searching for?" It forces us to take a hard look at ourselves and question where our true home actually is, and whether the wealth or lifestyles we chase can ever really fill the void of what we left behind. Let's wrap things up with Section 6, the meaning of the wanderer. It's really fascinating to look at Chala alongside another massive cultural symbol, Jogni. It's literally night and day. When we contrast the tragic, male-centric Chala, which is entirely focused on irreversible loss, duty, and a ruptured family lineage, with the unbound, liberated female spirit of the Jogni Sok narrative, we get the complete picture. Jogni travels freely, breaking patriarchal constraints, while Chala is trapped in grief and duty. Together, they show us how folklore helps us process our identities, our gender roles, and our deepest existential fears. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I've got to ask you, what phantom are you chasing in your own life? Are you drowning in the chaos of your own real, chasing the ghost of a Chalala, or have you somehow found a way to navigate this incredibly complex world we live in? Whether it's a trickster spirit on a dark, lonely road or a folk song echoing in a completely new city, the wanderer is ultimately a reflection of us. Think about it. What are you truly searching for? Catch you next time.